Chris Cowlin. Fan cams. Club news. Transfer news. Match previews. Legend interviews. Spurs winning. Press conferences. Covering everything Tottenham and England.
Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all keeping well. This is another edition of Premier League predictions. It is match week 26. 8 games will take place over the next couple of days. 6 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday and 1 on Monday. The 6 games on Saturday are as follows. Aston Villa against Nottingham Forest. Brighton host Everton. Crystal Palace against Burnley. Manchester United take on Fulham. Bournemouth take on the champions Manchester City. Arsenal take on Newcastle. The game on Sunday, Wolves host Sheffield United at Molineux, and Monday Night Football, West Ham United take on Brentford. Now, last week I took on Spurs fan Melvin all the way from Malta. Now, Melvin got 5 correct results, giving him a points tally of 10. I got 1 correct score and 8 correct results, giving me a points tally of 21. I have now taken the lead. 79 points for me, 78 for the guests. Now, joining me this week to predict the 8 results for the 8 Premier League games taking place in the next couple of days is Massive Dillan, a big Tottenham Hotspur fan. Do check him out on TikTok and Instagram. So let's get into it. The first game, Aston Villa take on Nottingham Forest. Now, Villa have actually got 6 senior players out of the squad for this game against Forest, but I do believe that Villa will be too strong for Nuno Espirito Santo's Forest at Villa Park. They have got an exceptional record at home so far this season, Aston Villa, and I do expect Villa to win this game. I'm going to say 2-0.
First game of the weekend is Villa versus Forest. Now, Villa are at home. They're amazing at home. They've only lost, 1 or 2 games this season. So I do think Villa will win this one. I'm going to go for 2-1. Nottingham Forest, David Nuno in charge. Not something to be excited for. I don't think they'll even stay up. So I do think Villa will win this 2-1, like I said. Be a somewhat close game, but Villa, throughout the whole game, will have control.
Now, Brighton against Everton. Now, an interesting fact here. The home team is winless in the past 6 Premier League meetings in this fixture. I think that this is going to change, though, because I believe that Brighton will beat Everton on Saturday afternoon. I'm going to go 2-1 Brighton.
Second game of the week is obviously Brighton versus Everton. Now, I do think Brighton should be the stronger team going into this, but I actually think Everton will get a result. I'm going to go for 1-1. I think Everton, they've got quality in their team to grind out results. And I think Brighton this season, I'm just not a big fan of what they're doing. I think they're not really on it. So 1-1 should be a fair result. I know Brighton are home, but Everton, they've got the fight, they've got the desire. They've had their points deduction, but they want to survive, don't they? They're a big club. They've got to stay in the Premier League. So they should be winning, should be getting something from this. So I'm going to go 1-1.
Crystal Palace take on Burnley Saturday afternoon. Now, Oliver Glasner has just taken over from Roy Hodgson. Eze and Elise are still out for Palace, but Burnley have been pretty poor so far this Premier League campaign. And all I see here is a home win. Of course, Glasner has come in. It's his first Premier League game for Crystal Palace. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Palace win.
The third game of the weekend is a complete unknown for me. Crystal Palace versus Burnley. Palace obviously getting rid of Roy Hodgson, bringing in Oliver Glasner, who we have no clue what he's going to do, but it's going to be exciting to see. And they have a good test for their first game, a team which they should be beating 100%, a team which won't really be going for it, so they'll have free reins on how they're going to set up, how they're going to attack. So I do think they should win this 2-0. Burnley, a team struggling, they really need to pick up points, but the game's coming up for them, especially Palace. I just don't see them picking up points. And if they're not going to pick up points in the next few games, then I don't know really how they're going to stay up.
Manchester United v Fulham. Now, Manchester United have certainly found form in recent weeks, and Manchester United are unbeaten in 16 Premier League games against Fulham since a 3-0 away defeat back in 2009. I see a home win here. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Manchester United win.
United versus Fulham is the next game, and as much as I'd like to say Fulham will get something from this game, I just can't see it happening. United, in the month of February, I don't think they've lost for about 5 years. It is always their month. They always go on their little purple patch during this month. So I see them win this. I'm going to go 3-0 United. Garnacho, he's on a decent run of form. Højlund, 5 goals, 2 assists in the last five or 6 games. The form's really good. Rashford, I think he's going to come back to form as well. I don't see United dropping points here, so I think they'll get all 3 points and close the gap to the top 5.
Bournemouth take on Manchester City. Now, Bournemouth are still without Adams, Aarons and Fredericks. Manchester City remain without injured pair Gvardiol and Jack Grealish. But of course, Manchester City are the champions. I do expect them to go to the Vitality Stadium and pick up the win. I'm going to say 3-0 City.
The next match is Bournemouth versus Man City. Now, in the reverse fixture at the Etihad, Man City ran riot against Bournemouth. They won 6-1. But I do think Bournemouth, since that game, that was a turning point for their season. They went on a really good run, picking up points against a few big teams, going on a really good run, beating all the teams they should be beating, moving up the table from what could have been a relegation scrap to now fighting for potentially being in the top 10. They play really good football under a good manager. They have a really young squad that shows real potential. But it is Man City, and against Man City, you just don't win. You just don't win. Man City, they've got Kevin De Bruyne back. They've got some of their best players back. They've got a somewhat full squad. So I just don't see them losing. So I'm going to go Man City 4-0.
Arsenal v Newcastle. Now, this one is going to be an interesting one. Arsenal are unbeaten in 11 Premier League home games against Newcastle. Their goalless draw last season ended a run of 10 straight victories. And the Magpies have failed to score in their last 8 league visits to the Emirates Stadium. Sadly, I think that Arsenal are going to win this game. I'm going to say 2-0.
We've got a juicy game next. It's Arsenal versus Newcastle United. Now, in the reverse fixture, obviously, Newcastle, they won the game 1-0 controversially, but they did get the win. They got the 3 points. Now, all week, I've been saying, Arsenal, I think, will nick this. But do you know what? I'm going to say it. I think Newcastle will get a point. I'm going to go 1-1. I think Arsenal, obviously, they've been running riot against West Ham, they won, 6-0, 5-0 against Burnley as well. But against Porto, you saw, if you can play right against Arsenal, they can't break you down. And I do think Newcastle team, that they can set themselves up right in the correct way and get a point. They've got players like Bruno G who can control the midfield. So I do think they'll get a point.
Now, Wolves take on Sheffield United on Sunday. Of course, Wolves just beat Spurs last weekend. I see Wolves winning again. They've got a fairly decent home record so far this Premier League campaign. Of course, beat Tottenham there, beat Manchester City there, have had some good results and some really good performances. And coming off that win against Spurs last weekend, I think the mood will be extremely high, and they are playing a very poor Sheffield United team. I'm actually going to go for a 2-0 Wolves win.
Our Sunday fixture is Wolves versus Sheffield United, and for me, that's a bit of a snooze fest. I will not be waking up for this, although if I'm not awake at that time, then a bit concerning. But Wolves, obviously, they've just beat Spurs 2-1. They've done a double over us, so I'd prefer not to speak about that one. Sheffield United, you never look at the team and think, right, they can pick up points against anyone. So for me, that's Wolves written all over it. They'll win 3-1. Gary O'Neill's got them playing some really good football, whereas Sheffield United, I look at that squad and I think, there's no real direction here. There's no real direction with the managerial structure. There's nothing there. So Wolves should win this quite comfortably.
Monday Night Football, West Ham United take on Brentford. I actually think that this one has got a 1-1 draw written all over it. I don't think it's going to be very eventful at all. West Ham have equalled their longest competitive winless streak from the beginning of a calendar year. Also 8 games in 1922 and 1997. And Brentford have 25 points, 1 fewer than the amount that they dropped from winning positions last season, which unsurprisingly is a league high. Neil Maupay has scored in all 4 Premier League starts versus West Ham. Do you know what? I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, and I think that there will probably be more fans at the London Stadium calling for David Moyes to go.
Our final fixture of the weekend is West Ham versus Brentford. Now, for me, this is the biggest draw written all over it fixture I can ever see. Brentford, they've got Ivan Toney back, but their squad is a bit dense because of all the injuries. They've not got Mbeumo, they've not got Rico Henry, they've not got some really big players. West Ham, they've not won a game all year, but It's just a fixture where I look at it and think, West Ham, they'll get something from this, but I can't see them winning the game. Brentford as well, I see them getting something from this game, but I can't see them losing. So I think it'll be a nice 2-2 draw. It'll be back and forth. It'll be a very nice game, but neither team will go away with 3 points. And finally, I'd like to say thank you to Chris for having me on. Obviously, I am Massive Dillan. You can find me on TikTok if you want to. I wouldn't recommend it, but that is me. Thank you, Chris, for having me on, and hopefully we got the predictions right.
Thanks for watching and thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do hit the subscribe button, like, share and comment below. Also put your score predictions in the comment section below. And if you listen to this on an audio platform, please do hit that follow button and leave a review if you can. Dylan, thanks so much for joining me this week. Let's see how we both get on in next week's edition. Have a great weekend, everyone. And until the next time, come on you Spurs.